You really can't find anybody that doesn't know this story. In the year 1912, a giant ship called the Titanic sinks into the Atlantic Ocean. The Titanic had many firsts. One of them, it was super luxurious. Not every section of it, but most of it was luxury. Another important thing that made this ship unique was that its skeleton was made with steel, and it was the steel that allowed a ship like this to be actually built. On the 10th of April 1912, the Titanic begins its journey from Southampton, England. Then they go to the north of France, get some more people, and in the end, they go to Queenstown, Ireland to pick up the last series of people. After that, they start heading towards New York. On the Titanic, there are 2,200 people on board, and 1,300 of them are the ship's personnel, so about 900 passengers. While the ship was sailing along, they were always warned with the telegraph that there are icebergs in the way and you should look out for them. And since it was in the middle of the spring, icebergs would come down from Greenland, and it could be in the middle of the way. But nowadays, ships have radars and they could easily avoid these icebergs. But in 1912, the Titanic did not have any radar system. They basically put two people on the watchtower to look forward and see if there's something in front of us. If you see an iceberg, let us know. The two dudes up there did not even have a flashlight, let alone binoculars. At 11:40 p.m., when the Titanic is moving at full speed, the two gentlemen in the watchtower see an iceberg up front, but it was too late because the iceberg was too close. The ship starts to turn left, and the right side of the ship gets slashed by the iceberg. The ice basically tears the entire ship apart. It would have been better if the watchtower didn't see the iceberg. Then they wouldn't have told them to turn, and the Titanic would crash head on. Engineers said back then that if the nose was smashed into the iceberg, the ship would not sink. It would be destroyed, but it wouldn't take that much damage where it would sink like it did. The engineers say this because the side of the ship is much weaker than the nose, so the head-on collision would have caused way less damage. Another problem the ship had was that the lifeboats were not enough for all the passengers on board. There were only 20 lifeboats that could hold 1,178 people, but there are 2,200 people on board. Either way, something happened that these lifeboats weren't even filled all the way up, and they could only save 705 people. So this is what caused 1,500 people to die. I mean, the story we just told you, everybody has heard of it, or maybe you watched the movie. But alongside this ship, there are a lot of conspiracies, and they don't accept this story. A lot of people think that JP Morgan, one of the wealthiest people in American history, realizes that the people he opposes are gonna be on this ship. Another interesting thing is that JP Morgan was a shareholder of White Star Line that owned the Titanic. JP Morgan himself was supposed to be on board, but because of personal reasons, he didn't join them. It's at this time that the Federal Reserve is forming in the United States, and JP Morgan wants the Federal Reserve to be established. But three people that oppose the Federal Reserve are on the board of the Titanic. The conspiracy says that JP Morgan was the one responsible for sinking the Titanic, so there's nothing opposing the idea of the Federal Reserve. But a lot of other people say that JP Morgan had nothing to do with the Titanic sinking, but the one that actually sank the ship was the Rothschild family. And we've made a video on them. The Rothschilds are the most famous banker family in the whole world. Conspiracy theorists say that the Rothschilds own the world because since the 18th century, in an exponential way, they have been getting richer and richer. And the reason they have so much money is that they funded different wars. Like during the Napoleon Wars, England would get loans from the Rothschild family to fund the war. Another example is Nathan Mayer Rothschild, the son of the founder of the Rothschild family, and he was the main reason that the family got so wealthy. Nathan Mayer Rothschild has a very famous saying, and it goes, "I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply." And this is one of the reasons conspiracy theorists say that Rothschilds did this, and it didn't hit an iceberg. This is one of the main conspiracies you hear about the Titanic sinking, but it's not the only one. There are plenty of other ones. Inside the Titanic, there was an Egyptian mummy. The reason it was on board, it was because England had borrowed it from Egypt to show in a museum. And after England was finished with it, America asked for it to show in their museum. So the Egyptians accepted that. So they were taking the money with the Titanic. The ghost that was inside this mummy was the thing that caused the Titanic to sink. But this is what conspiracy theorists say, so I don't know if it's true or not. The mummy theory was so famous at that time that the New York Times posted about it, that a mummy was on board, and a lot of people are believing it was the mummy that sank the ship. The New York Times was the most famous newspaper in the world at that time. So if they posted something like this, it was a huge hit. Or maybe they were trying to cover up other conspiracies. You thought it was finished? No. With this ship, there is plenty of conspiracies to go around. You have to know that the Titanic had a twin sister, and if you want to get to know this ship a little bit better, there is a video we made about it. This is the Titanic on the left, and the Olympic is the one on the right, and they were basically identical. If you look at this ship from afar, and you can't read its name on the side, you will mistake it for both of them, because they were that close to each other. Months before the Titanic sinks, the Olympic had a huge accident where an English Navy ship crashes into Olympic, and it cuts a huge gouge on the side of the ship. Luckily, this gouge wasn't that bad to sink the ship, and they could patch it up since they were close to shore. If they weren't close to the shore, there's a chance it would sink. Conspiracy theories say, since the Olympic was torn up, and you could fix it, but it will never be the same, they say change the name of the Olympic to Titanic and send it to the ocean. Fill it up with passengers so the insurance company doesn't realize, and in the middle of the Atlantic, take care of it so they can get that insurance money. Conspiracy theorists say this is very easy to do because it wasn't very obvious to tell these two apart. You could just change the names in certain areas, especially on the sides of the ship, and you'll be good to go. And a ship that's destroyed will get a complete paycheck from the insurance company. The world of conspiracy theories is kind of weird because they make a lot of claims and they don't believe anything anyone ever says. But a lot of people say no, that conspiracy theory will never work because the ship was insured for only $5 million while the ship cost $7.5 million to be built. Either way, right here we have 4 different theories. One is the one you probably seen in the movie. The other one is the Federal Reserve, JP Morgan and the Rothschilds. Another one is the mummy. And the last one is insurance fraud. In your opinion, which one of these makes the most sense? Please comment.